Have you ever watched an animation and thought, I want to know how they did that? That's exactly what happened to me with the opening of Dexter's Laboratory. I've loved this show for years, and there's something about the opening shot that has always stuck with me. So when I had the chance to recreate part of it as part of a bigger collaboration, I decided to make it a little more complicated for myself because I wasn't just trying to recreate Dexter's Laboratory, I was trying to figure out something entirely different. What if the shot felt like Gravity Falls instead? This project is part of a larger Dexter's Laboratory collaboration. I gathered a bunch of animators with different styles and different skill levels and experiences, and we're each recreating a shot from the opening theme. I chose the very first shot, but almost immediately, I knew I didn't just want to copy it. I wanted to use it as a foundation for something else. Two references and two jobs. Here's the thing about using reference that I think trips up a lot of animators. We find one thing we love, and we expect it to answer every question we have. But a single reference usually can't do that. Different references are good at answering different questions. So I split the job into two. Dexter's Laboratory became my structural reference. It told me how the shot was staged, how it's posed, how it's timed, and where the camera sits, and how it moves. Gravity Falls became my feeling reference. It told me how the character should act, how exaggerated the pose should be, what the character design language should look like. One reference gave me the skeleton, the other gave me the personality. And the whole project became about figuring out how to fuse these together. So I started with Dexter's Laboratory and broke the shot down. How's the character pose? How long is each pose held? Where does the movement accelerate and where does it slow down? How's the camera positioned and how does it move? Those questions gave me a blueprint, a timing chart, a camera plan, but none of them told me what the shot should feel like once it's done. For that, I had to keep asking a second question the whole way through. If this were a Gravity Falls shot, what would be different? That question hit me almost immediately with the character design. I didn't recreate Dee Dee exactly as she appears in the original. I redesigned her to fit more into Gravity Falls' visual language, the proportions, the shapes, and the way the design reads. So this became a strange little hybrid. The shot is structurally Dexter's Laboratory, and the staging is also Dexter's Laboratory, but the character walking through it is dressed in Gravity Falls rules, and that's really the whole experiment in one image. I decided to do the animation in Moho because I want to become a stronger Moho user, and to animate a Moho, I would need a Moho rig. Lucky for me, this was my first rig in Moho. I deliberately tried building it with bones, partly because I wanted the challenge, as if learning the program wasn't a challenge on its own, but also because I needed the character to move in a way that felt closer to how Gravity Falls handles its poses and shapes. A little looser and a little more exaggerated. And I wasn't sure a standard bone rig would give me that. So I built the character and figured out how I wanted it to move as I went along, using the Dexter's Lab timing as my math, and pushing the poses to a little bit more like how Gravity Falls handles their animation. For the background, the original shot uses a pretty distinct dual one-point perspective, and I've never really dealt with a background like that before, so instead of simplifying it, I decided to recreate the same setup, partly because it's part of what makes the original staging work, but once I had the perspective figured out, I still had choices to make about how it was rendered, how detailed it was, how it was shaded, and I tried to lean those choices towards what would sit comfortably next to a Gravity Falls character, instead of a Dexter's Lab one. That became the pattern for the whole project. Dexter's Lab would hand me the structural answer, while the Gravity Falls reference would hand me the feeling question. And I had to answer both those at the same time. I didn't know how I wanted to build the rig, so I experimented. I hadn't made a background with this kind of perspective before, so I had to figure it out. I changed the character design, so I had to figure out how the design would actually move and hold up under animation. And then I made things even more complicated. I also decided to composite the shot in Fusion for the first time. Usually I'd use After Effects, but no, let's try something new. The comp is where everything kind of comes together. It answers the question, does this feel like Gravity Falls? The color, the lighting, the texture, the grain. That's a huge part of what makes a show feel like itself. So on top of learning the software, I was constantly checking, does this still feel like Dexter's Lab staging, but Gravity Falls mood? There was a learning curve, or two, or three, but that tension, structure from one show, feeling from another, is what kept every decision from being arbitrary. I always had two references to check my choices against. That's probably the biggest thing I took from this project. If I only used Dexter's lab, I probably would have just copied it because it already had the answer. If I'd only used Gravity Falls, I wouldn't have had the structure to build it all. Using both meant every reference had a job to do. Structural questions went to one reference, feeling questions went to another, and parts where they disagreed were usually the most interesting parts of the shot. So after the redesign, the rig, the background, the animation, and the composite, this is what I ended up with. Is it Dexter's laboratory? Structurally, yes. Does it feel like Dexter's laboratory? Not really. And that was the point. I wasn't trying to prove I could copy the original shot. I was trying to see how far I could push it towards something else while keeping the bones intact. I think that's a better way to think about reference in general. You don't have to pick one thing to copy. You can take the structure from one place and the feeling from another, and use the tension between them to make actual decisions instead of just tracing. I started this project wanting to recreate a Dexter's Lab shot. I ended up asking what the shot would look like if Gravity Falls made it, and learning a new rig style, a new perspective technique, and a new compositing program along the way. And if you want to see what other animators do with the same source shot, this project is still open. There are 3 shots left in the Dexter's Lab collaboration, so if you want to bring your own style to it, there's still room. I'll have the info of the Discord in the description. If there's a show that shaped you and how you think about animation, don't just watch it. Try building something using its rules. You'll learn more from it than you could have ever imagined.